Test. Check. Testing. Okay. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Faith at Work. I'm Luke Back. I'm the rector of the Church of the Holy Spirit. I want to first of all welcome our guest today, Cindy Miller. Lovely to have you. And our host for this conversation, Bob Murley. Bob, thank you for being here. And a special welcome to everyone who is joining us live stream. We're getting the hang of that. And now you can join us by Zoom, too. If you'd like to zoom in, you can see we've got a few folks already on the screen, including me. There I'm on the screen. This is exciting stuff. So join in, and please, if you're out there pondering questions, zoom in and ask them. There'll be an opportunity to ask questions toward the end of our time together. And now a morning prayer. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Almighty God, you hate nothing you have made. In you, nothing is wasted, nothing is lost. Create and make in us clean hearts, O God, so that we may be responsible stewards of this world and of what we create and of what we let go of. Bless Cindy Miller in her vocation and in her life. Bless her as she holds forth this morning and shares about her faith and her work. May we all become the people you would have us be. Amen.
Good morning. Good morning. It's wonderful to have all of you here with us. Well, actually, there are only 2 or 3 of us here in the sanctuary. It feels a little lonely, I guess, in that respect, but we know that we're joined by so many of you who are participating via Zoom today. This is the first time I think we've done the program quite in this format, and I hope you enjoy it while you're having your coffee there at home and enjoying your breakfast. But thank you for all joining us here this morning. You know, this is the 91st time that we have gathered together to hear a speaker in our Faith at Work series. It's hard to believe a series that was started in 2009 and that my dear friend Mike Zafrowski and I co-authored and with the help of Mimi and others, Rick Priest, and getting off the ground, and it's just been a wonderful program. It's been a source, we think, of, at least hopefully you'll think too, a source of inspiration and shared learning for all of our parishioners and those beyond our church family. We've had many special guest speakers over the years, and I think you will conclude that today is yet another example of that. Cindy Miller is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Stereocycle Corporation. It's a Chicago-based public company, which is the nation's largest provider of medical waste services and also secure document destruction. Virtually every hospital in the country uses the services of Stereocycle to remove and properly treat medical waste, and there are many companies around the country that rely on it to remove paper that's no longer needed on their physical sites. And under Cindy's leadership, this company has performed just extraordinarily well. And actually, it is a company that does provide essential services to the country, and so their services have been in even greater demand following the outbreak of the COVID virus. Cindy's life story is really a very compelling one. Although she is not an immigrant, I've told her that if she were, she would qualify as a honest to goodness Horatio Alger story. She was born and raised in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania, a small coal mining town in the northeast part of the state. Tamaqua, I am told, means land of little running water. And I hope there was at least enough for your home, so
Yeah,
I don't worry about
okay.
that. But in this town of little running water, a lot of very, very big things happened. Her grandfather, as was his father, was a coal miner. And her mother and father worked very hard to make ends meet. Cindy was a very fine student, but to be honestly, she was an even better athlete. She led her high school basketball team to the state championship. We'll have to hear about your parade down Main Street at some point today, I hope.
It was great.
And she was recruited on an athletic scholarship to play for the Tar Heels at the University of North Carolina. And so that's a big deal for a gal from Tamaqua. However, right after her sophomore year, her father's business sadly went bankrupt, and the family was struggling financially to make ends meet. And Cindy had lost her motivation, I think, to continue to play at UNC, and so she returned home to take on multiple part-time jobs to provide for herself and to help her family. And just when things couldn't get any worse, they did. Her mother passed away of breast cancer after a short illness. But after caring for her mom and helping her dad, she began to search for a more lucrative and stable job. And at the age of 26, she joined a company called UPS, United Parcel Service, starting as a truck driver. And it didn't take long for her intellect, her leadership skills, and her exceptional work ethic to be noticed by the management team. She began to be given more and more responsibility, and ultimately she spent 30 years at UPS, rising to become one of the most senior executives within the company. And during this time, she somehow found time to return to school to complete her degree in business administration. She is a proud and rabid Nittany Lion, there you go, from Penn State. And I think she attends every home football game. I met Cindy just almost now 3 years ago, along with fellow parishioner Mike Zafarowski. We have the honor of serving as independent directors of the company Stereocycle, and we had launched a search to find someone who could be a candidate to become the next chief executive officer of the company. Mike and I had served together on that search committee. I'll never forget the day that Cindy interviewed with us. You remember, coming over to we conducted the interviews at the Deer Path Inn, and she impressed us with her rare combination of IQ and EQ and her natural leadership skills. And when she walked out of the room, I think we all looked at each other and smiled and maybe kind of gave a high five and said, we knew we had found the right person to lead us forward. 2 weeks later, Cindy was hired as President and Chief Operating Officer, and within a year, she was promoted to Chief Executive Officer, and under her leadership and her stewardship, this company has really been thriving. Over the past couple years, as we have spent considerable time together, I learned something else about Cindy, and that was that she is a very devout Christian with a very strong faith. She has placed the Lord at the center of her life, and her faith has been a source of strength as she has faced challenges both personally and professionally. Cindy is married to her partner, Karen. They actually met in high school in Tamaqua, but their relationship really took flight in the early 1990s. Karen has 2 children from a prior marriage, and Cindy and Karen have 3 lovely grandchildren. And Mimi and I have so enjoyed spending time with both she and Karen since Cindy joined the company. Cindy, we're very grateful for you being willing to come here today and join us here at Church of the Holy Spirit. And we look forward to hearing a little bit more about your faith journey this morning and the role that, faith has played in your life and how you think about, as we all try to bridge Sunday with Monday, how you think about that process in your own life. So thank you for joining us, and welcome to Church of the Holy Spirit.
Thank you so much, Bob. I think for you and Mimi, and certainly for Mike and Robin, I do have to say a big thanks. I think it was just it's amazing to sit here, but I think the learning comes as you're preparing for it. And it really made me take stock of the scorecard of faith in my life. And I think I'm forever changed because because I did that. So like many, I think, that have spoken here before, and for many of you who have listened to an awful lot of the speakers, I'm sure our journeys are very, very similar. But before I start saying anything about me, I do want to start with Matthew chapter 17, verse 20, because it says, "For truly I say to you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say this to the mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. And nothing will be impossible to you." And the more I thought about what I wanted to share today, I was drawn to this verse because it sums up my upbringing and my life. So as Bob had said, 1962, small town, coal mining town in Pennsylvania, a regular Norman Rockwell kind of life, vacation Bible school, chasing fireflies, hide and seek at night, Friday night lights, parades, going to the community pool, just all those types of things. High school rivalries, going to dances, and I think the first tally on my faith scorecard for me, I think, is just the fact that I was raised by two wonderful parents and just raised within a pretty close, strong Christian values family. And they gave me daily lessons of that Bible verse. I think with their love and their guidance and encouragement, I was raised in that small town, but I truly believed that with faith, I could move mountains. I realized church was a very integral part of my life. As thinking about this discussion, I wanted to think about all the memories of church and growing up, and quite frankly, they really are most of the stories that our family still sits and talks about with each other, whether it's after Christmas Eve late night service and the events that were hosted at my parents' home afterwards. It's all the activities we did around, Easter Sundays and vacation Bible school, and so an awful lot of funny stories and really heartwarming stories. I realized, kind of either were before or right after a church service, which was pretty good. Now, I won't take you through every moment of my life. I'll spare you all of those details, but just say, I've had the same trials and tribulations as many. I was a normal young adult with wavering views on life during a time when friends and pop culture tended to overshout the voice of faith. I think that's pretty prevalent. I think that's still an issue that can be talked about today. To be quite honest, I was unsuccessful at my first attempt at college. I would look at it, and I look back now, I was looking for an excuse to not finish. And as Bob had mentioned, my father did have some financial difficulties and those type of things, but I think I was more unbridled. I was out of touch with my faith and the principles that I was taught. But I'm very thankful that the Lord never gave up on me. Neither did my parents, thank goodness. I think the consequences of what was happening in my life at that time, as is often the case, made my father continue, no matter how big I thought I was digging myself in a hole. I think about Matthew chapter 19, verse 21, where all things are possible with God. So I needed to get redirected. I needed to get focused. I settled down. I met Karen when I was in kindergarten, actually. I was 5, Karen was 4. We have a kindergarten picture in our house. But we, in the late 70s, Karen and I embarked on a relationship that we, quite frankly, thought we were the only two people in the world that had a same-sex relationship. So we didn't know what we were doing. We both went different ways in college, and then before you know it, 1990 or 89, somewhere around in there, we got reconnected, and we ended up becoming a family in 1991. Her children at the time were 4 and 1, now our children. So it was the start of a journey of really getting refocused and bringing faith back into our lives as we knew they should have been. I think I've had great moments of joy and pain. I've made some really great decisions in my life, and I've made some hugely regrettable ones. I've had moments of living up to my faith and I've had others where I have fallen well short. But I think one thing is true, and that's the foundation of my faith, is the gift of love, the love for my family and my Savior, as taught by Jesus Christ, that got me through it all. So I'd like to just talk about a few things. I'll fast forward and talk about some things in my life that have happened that even when I talk to my secular friends can't be explained. They just can't. There's too many of them, and they're too almost too perfectly laid out that they could be just a continuum of coincidence. So I'll set a few things up. So first, one of my first insights into something that was not explainable was my mom she actually did have breast cancer, but then she survived that, and in 2008, October of 2008, she was a heavy smoker. We found out she had lung cancer and brain cancer, and by Christmas Eve 2008, she passed away. She was 66. So at her bedside in the hospital was her mother. My grandmother was sitting across from me. I'm on one side of the bed. My mom is laying in the bed. Room is dark. It's very quiet. Karen is sitting next to me. We know we're the last couple of hours of my mom's life. We're just quiet, praying, crying. My mom sits up, and she looks at her mother, my grandmother, and she says, "Mom, I understand it now." And my grandmother looks at her and is holding on to the rails of the bed and looks at her and she says, "Donna, what do you understand?" And my mom looked at her and she said, "I've seen God's plan." Then she lays back down, and in about an hour, she passed away. It was the last thing she'd ever said. My grandmother and I, and we get through that moment. Later on, a few years later, I kept saying, "Graham, why didn't you ask her what was the plan?" You know, in hindsight being 2020, right there, I'm in shock as to what's going on. And then in the end, I'm like, "Graham, why didn't you ask her what the plan was?"
A missed opportunity.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity. So, but one of the things I can say is in my life, my mom, it's always said that once a large tree falls, as sad as it is, it really makes room for smaller trees to get some light. My mom was a big tree. My mom was just a powerful voice in our family. And when I would call home, if my dad would answer, he would say, "Hold on, I'll get your mom," and almost run off the phone. It was everything. Mom was the conduit to life. And with her passing, I got very close to my father. And what happened was his faith was on shaky ground after his sweetheart was taken. He felt like, and he used to send me emails and we used to talk, he felt like his faith ship, was lost at sea. And I realized at that time that my faith was being put to the test because I had to help my father find his faith ship. And it was really interesting how the roles in our lives had changed a bit. Because the epiphany for me was I always looked to my father's faith to bring me back, to find my lost ship. And we grew very close, spoke several times a day, every day. Then in April of 2012, he developed lung cancer. He was a tremendous role model for all of us. He valiantly faced the disease. He lasted a little bit longer than my mother, but he died in October of 2012. My brother and I had to make the difficult decision to take him off a ventilator. But with faith, our faith knew that our parents, my father in the worst way, wanted to be with his wife. So we got through that. So Bob did mention it a little bit. I did work for UPS. I spent 8.5 years out of the last 10 years for UPS as the president of UPS in Europe, and we lived overseas. We lived a few different places in Belgium and in the UK. And one of the things I realized was that I wasn't going to get any further with UPS. I was in the top 17 at UPS, but I had a diametrically opposing view to how UPS was moving forward with a particularly large customer. And I was on the opposite side of the table with the CEO at just about every meeting with this. And around June of 2015, Karen and I were at the French Open, the French Tennis Open. So my father died in 2012. It's June of 2015. We're there, and one night we're having a conversation, and I said, and headhunters in Europe were calling me pretty regularly to say, hey, do you want to leave UPS? Would you like a different job? And it started to play on me, and I kept thinking, should I or shouldn't I? I remember saying to Karen, you know, this is one of those times I wish I could talk to my dad. I really wish I could just have a conversation with my dad and see what he thinks. We go to bed. It's a Saturday night. Finals were Sunday.
Who knew he was a tennis nut, huh?
Yeah, well, how about that?
At Roland Garros.
So we're in the hotel, and Karen must have pushed me 3 or 4 times during the night. She kept saying, "Are you okay? Wake up. Are you okay?" And when we woke up the next morning, I looked at her and she said, "Boy, you were quite active last night. What's wrong? What's on your mind?" And I said, "You know what, Karen? I don't know. I think I was trying to find my dad. I just felt anxious, and I just recall I was walking down a hallway and I'm yelling for my dad. I said, I guess it's just from the conversation we had last night. And I said, but I still wonder what he would think." So like many of you, the way you find out what your adult children are doing in their lives is you check Facebook or Instagram. So we were in France, we had been living overseas, grown children here in the US. We reach to opposite nightstands, grab our phones. First thing I pull up is Facebook. The first picture on my Facebook page is a picture of my father I had never seen before, posted by a woman I had never met, and he had attended an event that I had never heard of. But his Facebook page was still live. This woman didn't know my father passed away. Every year on her wedding anniversary, she would post pictures of her favorite memories from that wedding. That morning, the first picture that came up was a picture of my father, who apparently I was chasing that night in bed. I was trying to get a hold of him. And it's him, as big as life as he was, with both his arms around 2 of his buddies with a thumbs up. I never saw the picture before. I actually then I sent a message to that gal letting her know my father had passed away, and she told me a little bit more of the story about that picture. But Karen and I were both, I said, maybe we should watch what we say a little bit more. Maybe we should be a little bit more, maybe, we waver every now and then. Maybe we should watch. So now I'll fast forward. June of 2016, we come back to the United States. We move back. I'm still actively looking for a job. 2017, September 2017, I'm in the running for a different job, not the Stereocycle position. Boiled down to me and a former CEO, and I didn't get the job. And the chairman of that company said, "Cindy, we thought you were terrific, but we don't want to have to teach you about investor relations. We're not here to teach people. We're not here to give anybody an education, so you fell just a little bit short." Okay. We go to January of 2018. January of 2018, we're on vacation. We're having a conversation. And the conversation is about forgiveness. And Karen says, we're talking about different things as you do. And Karen says, I don't know. I just don't think I'm living up to my Christian values. I just can't, there's this one person in our life I just can't forgive. The next morning, we're on vacation again, and I sat up and I said, Karen, we have to go to church. She said, "Where is church? What church? Where are we going to go? What do you mean?" I said, "I don't know. We have to go to church." Okay. We got up, we got dressed, went down to the concierge. Where's the closest churches? Found one, go in, sit down. And when we sit there, I didn't know why, but the pastor comes out. Today is a series of discussions we're having, as you all know, beginning of the new year. Today we are going to talk about the movie Frozen, the Disney movie. And we're specifically going to talk about the song Let It Go. And do you know why? Because today's lesson is all about forgiveness. Karen, I looked at Karen looked at me, we're in the church, and I'm thinking, wow, just wow. And we cry, but we were there, and we go on with the lesson, and the lesson, you know, to jump to the ending was like the song, just let it go. So that was the lesson on forgiveness. Now I fast forward, I get back into the Stereocycle hunt. So it's May of 2018. I'm in a meeting at UPS, top 17. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. My phone, as many people do, my phone is face down, and it is on silent mode, but it's right there in front of me. Listening to people talk, and I'm realizing that we're going down the wrong direction, in my opinion. I put my head down, and I say a prayer. Heavenly Father, I pray all the time. We speak many times a day, and I have never, ever asked for anything for me. But Heavenly Father, I'm not asking for you to find me another job. I'm not asking for you to do anything for me other than I'd love to have another opportunity. I'm done with the prayer. We finish the meeting. That was at 11 o'clock. I go out, I get in the car, I'd go to the airport. I look at my phone. So now it's 12:30. I'm in the car, settled, waiting to go to the airport to fly wherever I had to. I open up the phone. I missed a call. I missed a call at 11:20, which is fine. The phone was on silent. It should have been. That's fine. It's a Chicago phone number. I don't recognize the phone number. There's no name attached to it, just a phone number. They left a message. I play the message. Message says, "Hi, Cindy. You've never met me. My name is John Madera. I work for Russell Reynolds. We're a search firm. And one of my colleagues used you or found you for a previous job that you didn't get or at the beginning of the year. They picked somebody else. But he thought you were that terrific that he shared your name with me, and I'm wondering if you'd be interested in a company that's on a search out of Chicago." Now, what are the odds that at 11:20 I get that call? So I follow up. So we move. We go a little bit further. So it's now July of 2018. Now I don't know if Bob and Mike know, but when you may have put me forth as a candidate, I had to go through a psych evaluation. Now, I was with UPS for 30 years. I already knew I was nuts. So, I mean, like, I didn't know that I needed anybody else to confirm it or to not confirm it. So I go to this psych evaluation in downtown Atlanta for somebody from Russell Reynolds. So I'm sitting across from him, and he sits down, he opens up his laptop, he puts his fingers on his laptop, and he says, now I had to take a self-assessment before that. And he says, I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be interesting. And I said, oh, I'm looking forward to it too. Like this whole find a job thing is new to me. I've had the same one for 30 years. He says, it's going to be interesting because we've never had anybody score in a certain category like you. Is that good? He said, you are the most transparent, the most upfront, the most candid person we've ever met. He said, based on your score, you didn't even try to hide that you would ever not tell anybody the truth. He said, and we've never really seen that. So I'm very excited today. I said, okay, me too. So we start talking. So tell me about your relationship with your mother. On what day? Like when I was 11, when I was, just in general. So we start, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't know getting this position was going to be this hard. We go through a bunch of things. So how did that make you feel? And so then what did you do? And then, so did you find any times where being that upfront got you in trouble? And then we continue, and he says, and then the question is, so tell me, how has you being this candid put you into, how does your CEO view your candor? Oh my goodness. I just got done sharing that, we didn't have the greatest relationship. So now, being very honest, I go down that path. By the time we're done, I think I blew the job. There's no way I'm getting this job. There's absolutely no way I'm getting this job. I was on a high, and then I'm thinking, wow, Lord, you give me all kinds of opportunities, and I just figure out how to not do them well. So I leave there. I called Karen. She said, how'd it go? I said, not so good. Not so well. I think I blew it. So we fast forward a little further, and another company had called me, and I was running parallel opportunities. And the bottom line is this: in August of 2018, I was feeling really anxious because I was being courted by two companies, Stereocycle and another one. We're at our place in South Carolina. I can't sleep. It's a Saturday night. I get up, I'm walking around, and Karen says to me the next day, what's the matter? I said, we have to go to church. She said, there aren't any Methodist churches around here. I said, still, we have to go to church. We have to find one. So we drove and we found a Methodist church. We go into the church. We sit down. They hand us a bulletin. The sermon that day was specifically, are you feeling anxious? The understanding of the 23rd Psalm. And I said, okay, this is where it's supposed to be. So at the end of the day, I realized that God speaks to you in many different ways with your faith. You just have to be open to them and really believe. And so for me, what I like to say is, at work on Mondays, just like my life on Sundays, I use my faith to realize that we're all mustard seeds, but we can all move mountains. And I truly believe that I am a wife and a partner and a grandparent and a parent and a CEO and a friend and a sister and all those kinds of things. But truly, I think I identify best with being a mustard seed. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to share in terms of the reflections that I've had about my life. We're being told to save some questions. Great.
I'm sorry, I did not have my mic on. Sarah, are you there? I think you wanted to ask the first question. There you go.
Hi, good morning. I hope you can hear me. Okay, great. Thank you, Cindy. I've really enjoyed listening to you listening to you this morning. I have 3 20-something-year-old children that my husband and I have raised. And my youngest is a junior in college, but my older 2 have embarked into the real world with their first jobs of employment. And oftentimes they ask us different questions, and my husband and I try to give them advice from our own experiences. So my question is really a 2-part question. One, what would you tell your younger self, having known what you know now and what you've experienced? And 2, what advice would you give those young 20-something-year-olds that are starting out? They're anxious, but they're also very driven, motivated, and they're ready to kind of capture the world because they're just so energized with getting started. I know sometimes younger adults aren't as embedded in their faith journey as maybe some of us 50-year-olds, 50-something and beyond are, because we've had more life experiences. But I'm curious to know what you might offer in terms of advice for our young adults.
I think, thank you thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for joining today, and then for the question. You know exactly what you're dealing with. Our children now are 33 and 30. We had the same issues and, I guess angst over our 20-somethings. When they were trying to find themselves. I think I will say that telling them what to do, obviously, doesn't work. It didn't work when they were 11, and it doesn't work when they're 21. I think continuing to be the best examples that you and your husband can be, because what I have found later is that while we all think they aren't watching or they don't care, it does come out later, and it has come out since, whereby they deep down do want to emulate you, especially, and that's in all aspects of it, even in the calmness that you feel from your faith. And I sometimes found with our kids, their anxiousness that could have been filled and calmed with more faith, they decided to fill that space with other activities and other things that just made them more harried and I think unhappier. I think that 20s time frame is very difficult. I think we're very fortunate, as many are. They've kind of come out of that, if you will, and have focused. Certainly now that they're married with children, it is a different influence, and they're more relaxed with it because they've determined who they are. And I think in the early 20s, you have no idea who you are. You're barely lucky you know where you are. So I think the best advice is to be the advice at any times when they ask for your thoughts. And I'm cautious to say that because it has to be when they ask. At least that's what I've learned. Because free advice they don't want to have anything to do with. Just give them guidance on a few things that you see, and then what we tried to do was always say, and hey, by the way, we're going to be at church next week, and we'd love for you to join us. Or little things that you can do, or a meal after church, or the things that keep them in touch with a routine they knew when they were younger. I think you'll find then it is pretty meaningful. At least that's the experience that I've had. I've known, with Bob and his children, and certainly Mike and Robin. I think at some point in time, their hearts do open up.
Thank you. While we're waiting for another one, let me ask you one. That is, how would you say that faith? How does it manifest itself, and how it influences your leadership of the company, your philosophy of leadership?
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. I am true to who I am at work, even down to I'm a Merry Christmas kind of gal, but then I can temper it by saying, Merry Christmas, but also, whatever holiday, if you whatever it is that you choose to celebrate at this point in time, or if you just like the fact that everybody that you get to go shopping more, I wish you a very great season. I'm one that, I'm not a happy holidays kind of gal. I make sure that Merry Christmas is in there, and I think it's for me to make sure that I am true to myself. But somebody gave me this book a while ago, and it's the 100 most important Bible verses every leader must know. And there's a tremendous amount of
Who's it written?
Verses in here. It's by J. Payleitner. And it's a great, just a desktop book, and I've had it for many years. And oftentimes, the topics in there are just really terrific. Different quotes from business leaders, and I just reference it. It's divided up by faith, or struggling at work, or leadership, or communication, and so when I need a quote, I oftentimes go to it. But for me, I truly believe that at work, any place that I've ever been, I tried. Your business goals are to do the best that the company can do, and sometimes it's very similar to trying to move a mountain that we talk about. That as the mustard seed, you have to have faith that you can do those things. And I find that my leadership is meant to motivate people to believe that they can move mountains. Now, they think they're doing them for business reasons or whatever, but oftentimes I will be engaged in a personal conversation with someone, just asking them, how's your family, how's your mother, you know, I saw that your son broke his arm, how's he doing? And it's oftentimes where I can give a move a mountain faith lesson in some of those moments, where it isn't in front of a broader group, but the moment is right to continue to share God's grace.
It's wonderful. Is there another question from those that are listening in? And well, actually, we have a couple people here in the sanctuary, but Bob, why don't you go ahead? We might need a microphone there for you there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that extraordinary presentation and personal, spiritual experience. Thinking about being a Christian today, there's the internal aspect of it, which is the strengthening of our faith, and then there's the external. What particular missions, or if you could really cite one that really ignites you as being able to be a fulfillment of your Christian belief that you are committed to and that you are investing in and spending time with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I've got I think from a personal perspective, I have a Down syndrome nephew. He's 18. He's my godson. And he's my godson for a reason. I've got several nieces and nephews, but he's my brother's son. And I remember, I think he was brought into our lives for a reason. He's the joy for all of us. His name is Tucker. And Tucker, I'm surprised he's in school right now. He FaceTimes me 24 hours a day. And if he doesn't get me, he'll keep pinging me until I respond. But so for me, I've always had just a soft spot in my life for the Christian belief that we are all on this planet for a reason, that the Lord gave us all gifts, that we are a gift from God. Tucker is a gift like all other children. So for me, I just think that when I think about the plight of the world and how even having a child is now almost like going to a boutique store. People are now deciding that they want to choose eye color and really making it more of a grocery store selection as opposed to the gift from God. I think for me in my life, I've always been had a soft spot in my heart for whether it's Special Olympics or a lot of things around folks that I think are just gorgeous gifts from God. They're just a little different. So I would have to say that's probably one of the biggest soft spots in my heart. Thank you for asking the question.
I think we have a question up here in front.
Well, Cindy, I'm happy they did not have those psychological tests for board members. Bob and I would have made it.
Oh, boy.
They'd be looking for a few new board members now, wouldn't they?
Two hopefully simple questions on your prayer routines, either weekends or weekdays. And second, your colleagues at Stereocycle, do they know your faith journey? Do you express it openly, or is it mostly private? So thank you,
no,
thank you for your leadership at
Mike,
Stereocycle.
thanks. Thank you. I think I pray several times a day, and I don't mean, see, again, I'm extremely open and honest, and this may sound horrible, but I find when I finally get into the ladies' room, nobody bothers me. And it's my time. There's not a phone with me. So I pray an awful lot when I'm in the ladies' room. It's when I say my prayers for Thanksgiving, my prayers for all the blessings, and it's whether it's whatever. I'm in there, and that's my time for me and for my prayer, and that's when I do it. At least during a busy work day. So for me, if I run downstairs into the ladies' room after the service, more than likely I'm going to have a chat with the Lord. So and to me, it just has drowned. It's taken away the noise. That's a pretty strong routine. And then the other part is, yes, I think people at work, any place that I've been, understand that my faith is important. I always wear my cross, and I've always not shied away from those things. But I have to be honest with myself. I would say that once I felt more comfortable with it, and once, I would say I'm a much louder voice since the death of my mother, and then having to be a steward for my father. I think that helped me be more outward as a Christian, whereas I think before it may have been more individual. But having to outwardly help him, I think helped me be more outward. So I would have to say that was a turning point for me in terms of feeling comfortable and confident. Confident, I think, is a better word.
Yo, we have one more over here.
Cindy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I love the
coming
parable of
this
the mustard seed, and very much appreciated all of your God sightings. I feel that the more that I pray, and the closer that you put your faith in God, the more you see
Agreed.
the opportunities in the God sightings. You relinquish and you trust. In that sense, though, you're a CEO of a large company. You're looking for certainty. You're trying to create predictability, scalability. You have these employees who are striving to hit numbers, and we all like to try to control things. And in some ways, and I've always enjoyed the variability in new businesses and the uncertainty. I find that the most incredible opportunities come from maybe some conflict and some of the strife. But how do you communicate the need to let go, or the need to have trust, and do you infuse faith into that when you're talking to your employees? Because I think that's an opportunity sometimes to talk about faith in a way where you're not hitting people with faith head on. But I'd be interested to hear if you've had some experiences like that where you brought God sightings into getting people to be better leaders.
I think it's obvious you've had some of those experiences too in your dealings, because that is very true. Trust is extremely important. The one thing that I think from my faith and my upbringing and my family and my Christian values that I think has served me best is the fact that I'm very in touch with the people with whom I work. I can see, I believe that I have the ability to see beneath what's good intent versus what's no intent, and some of those types of things. So to me, putting a team together of people that I believe, whether they're believers or not, whether they're Christian or not, whether they're whatever, but I think we can all see and feel in folks' hearts, where what their focus is. And so to me, I've not always had teams of people where I believed in the goodness of everyone. In it might be my own Christian shortcoming, but I gave everybody as many opportunities as I could, and then had to change team members. But I think at work, in terms of trust, I think as with anything, even with our own faith, it gets easier in life for your strength to shine through your faith, because you've had so many examples of when those God-wink moments have happened. So you feel better about it because you've had those experiences, and yet, but because we have those experiences, it grew our faith. When I'm sitting with someone and we're having conversations and we're driving folks and I have to trust them to do the right thing, if they've given me enough evidence that the fact that we are going in the right direction, that I take active moments to say, okay, this isn't about me directing it. I need to let them direct it. But because they've given me those moments that I've seen that earned that trust. Just as our faith grows, with the more God winks we see, I think I've learned over the years, especially when you get to a point where you're in a position of responsibility and you can't do it all. I think those have been the best teachings that have made me realize, I do have to give up the control of certain things, and you actually do that with folks with whom you've developed those trusting moments. And I've had to learn that. I've had to get better at that. But I think we get better with a lot of things, with more experience. So thanks for that question.
So in the spirit of along the lines of transparency, you are very transparent. Let me ask you this question: Have you found the church to be a welcoming place for you and Karen as a gay couple?
I think it's a great question, and I think it's great that we can talk about it. I think, a couple decades ago, that would have been quite a loaded question.
Right.
I think Karen and I have been always Karen's mother was the church organist for I think 40 or 45 years, and, she was raised in the church, I was raised in the church. We were in conflict with our relationship. And then really just had to say that, okay, it boiled down to a few things. And a few things were, everybody sins. And if this is the worst one that we do, I think we can continue to pray about it, but I'm sure God still loves us. And we figured out how to get through all those things. And it was challenging for us. But at no point in time, no matter where we lived, and we moved 10 times with UPS, never was in a town long enough to have your home church, if you will, other than where we grew up. And but our experiences, we would always go to church for the individual cleansing and strength that we would get from it, and then we would leave, talk about things at home, or take the kids to Sunday school. But we went to church not from an activist perspective in terms of a secular cause. We went to church for the Christian value perspective that we wanted to get as individuals. Right. So I think that made it such that we didn't go into any place with a demand, and therefore every place was fine. We never experienced anything. Now, I will tell you, fast forward to today, with the world being a different place, I still think people don't treat us any differently. If anything, maybe they're maybe a bit nicer, a little bit more open. But I've never had a problem within the church. But then again, I didn't go looking for one.
Right.
And I think that was a difference.
Yeah. Please tell Karen, by the way, that my grandmother played the organ.
Did she?
In the Congregational Church in Fort Wayne, Indiana, for 40 years.
40 years.
So.
That's 40 years. She plays the Palms for me on every Palm Sunday. I make her play it on our piano. Mike, you were going to ask. Oh.
Karen, can you...
Speak a little louder.
Sorry. Cindy, would you tell us the story of the eagle?
Oh, sure.
Which
sure.
is so beautiful.
Sure. So we go back to getting the job. Bob and Mike and the rest, you had called me. I was vacationing in Ireland and accepted the job. So I got the job, and I was at Shore Acres, not just up the road, not far from here. It was my first time ever at Shore Acres. I flew in to meet with the board. The board was having a meeting the next day, and they invited me to a dinner. So I go to Shore Acres. I got there exceptionally early, and I walked out on the back patio. So for anybody who's been at Shore Acres, it sits right on the water, and I was on the back deck, and there's an embankment. I don't know, maybe an 6-foot, 8-foot embankment down before you get right to the water. And if you look to the right or to the left, there's nothing but trees. It's tree lined. So I was standing in the back, and I am more excited than you can imagine. And at that moment, it was a beautiful night. It was fall, September. I remember standing out there, and I looked up at the sky, and it was a moment to pray. So, Heavenly Father, thank you for the many blessings, and it went on and on with my usual ritual. And then I said, but I really want my special angels with you to share in this moment with me. And I said, I'd like to, the angel of my mother and my father and my gram and my pap, my pop and my mom, and Karen's father, Guy, and I list a boatload of them. Like, my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Valentine. I mean, like, I'm going through the whole. I'm getting pretty into it. So I get so emotional. I cry a little bit. I finish the prayer, and at that, I'm looking out. It's a gorgeous night. At that, I look to my left, and there's an eagle. Now, my son is an avid birder. I know 20 birds. My son knows 750. His uncle knows about. So I've gone birding. We've done the whole thing. So I look to my left, and I see a bald eagle is coming my direction. And I'm not talking up in the sky bald eagle where you have to look up and say, is it an eagle or is it a turkey vulture? No, this is just about at eye level. So this magnificent, majestic bird, with its very deliberate and slow, huge wingspan flapping, is coming almost at eye level with where I'm standing. So, and remember, we're up above the water, and he comes so close, and he's actually, God is my witness, as he gets close enough, he actually turns his head, I'm sure looking to see if he wanted to eat me, and then decided, nope, she's a little too big. We'll keep on going down the shoreline. So he moves on, he keeps on going, but he looked over and then kept on going. And I'm holding the glass of whatever I was drinking, and I'm thinking, we've gone all different kinds of places looking at birds. I've never been that close to a bald eagle that wasn't, tethered or held by a zookeeper. Oh my goodness. So, and it moved me. So I left there, and I called Karen after the dinner, and she said, how'd the dinner go? I said, Karen, the dinner was great, but let me tell you, like, what do you think this means? Like, this eagle came right down the thing and actually looked at me. And she said, and her comment was, well, I don't think he was going to eat you. And I thought, okay, well, we're both on the same page. So she said, Cindy, I don't know. But wow. So we had this conversation. She said, she said, did you call Jack, our son? I said, no, I didn't call him yet. She said, why don't you take a picture? I didn't have my phone, the whole thing. So when I finish, I wake up the next day, and Karen calls, and she says, hey, she said, I've done some research. I said, yeah? She said, Cindy, in many ancient folklore and in a lot of different practices, an eagle represents your ancestors. And she said, so did you, was there anything that led up to that? And I said, oh my goodness, Karen, just prior to that, I just got done thanking just about everybody that I ever met in Tamaqua, for helping me get to where I am. And so I think it was that moment that maybe they came by and gave me a look and let me know, hey, we're here with you. At least that's my version of the story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's a great story. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions.
Just really short. Again, a wonderful, wonderful reflection and talk this morning.
Thank you, Mike.
Back to your comment when your mom's last hour.
Yep.
Any speculations what she meant? What are your thoughts with that?
Yeah, I think.
God's plan.
Yeah, my mom. My mom, bigger than life. personality, just a wonderful, wonderful woman. We grew up a bit like friends. My mom had me at 19, so we were quite close in age, and close. And I remember when she first got diagnosed, we were just moving to Europe. And no, I remember August of 2008, standing in the back of my house, my parents' home. My mom had lost a tremendous amount of weight. And I remember putting my hands on her shoulders, on both her arms, and I'm saying to her, Mom, this isn't because you're just not hungry or because you think you have mono. There's a problem. Please, you have to go to a doctor. Okay, I will. So I went overseas, and it was September 10th or September 11th overseas. It was September 10th here. My mom went to the doctor. She actually blacked out at the back of the house. She passed out. They took her to the hospital, and then they had the phone. My dad, I said, Dad, just let me hear what the doctor's saying. So he let me hear, and he said, Donna, we've got bad news. You have lung cancer, and we think it may have gone to your brain, because they did an MRI on her head, and that's where they found everything. And I remember, oh my goodness. And I remember when I came home, I flew home just a couple days later, and I was home, and I remember my mom saying, to my mom, at first she said, I don't know, I just don't understand. I don't know why me, because her father had died of the exact same thing. As a matter of fact, my mom and a lot of the things she went through close to the end were mirrored the stories she used to tell me of what she was experiencing with her father as he was dying. So anyway, to get to the story, what do I think she meant? She kept saying, there just has to be a reason. There has to be a reason for this. And she said, I'm okay with it. There has to be a reason. And of course, she was trying to fight it and all those other kinds of things. When she got to the hospital, I think what she was trying to tell us is that to reaffirm, I look at it, to reaffirm our faith in the fact that at that moment, she hadn't talked for hours prior to that. We were just, it's a horrible thing to sit next to somebody's bedside while you're waiting for them to pass. You don't know if you should be wishing time away. You don't know. I mean, it's interesting. So she was very, very quiet. And when she said, I understand now. And then she said, what do you understand? Donna, I've seen God's plan. And I think that was her way of letting us know it's okay. This is God's plan. The experiences that we had up to that point in time were meant to teach us all something. And when I listen now to TED Talks or anything else about what folks say and what they think, and folks with their death experiences, I truly believe that she knew that God's plan was that we like to say, she was 66 years old, but she did enough activity as if she was 166. And for all that was action packed into that 66 years, it was that moment, and it was the right time. And I think she was trying to tell us that.
Well, thank you. This has been a wonderful time this morning. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. We do have a tradition. We generally end sharing the Lord's Prayer, and I think it'd be appropriate for us to that. Maybe
I would welcome it.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and lead us not
our trespasses,
as we forgive those who trespass
against us.
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you.